Dash Dilek, welcome to Tibettv's weekly analysis. Since the advent of Joseph Nye's soft power concept in international relations, many countries paid attention to their soft power entities. Today, India is globally known for having soft power through yoga, Bollywood films, etc. Now, India is seemingly conjuring up the efforts to incorporate Buddhism as a part of its soft power diplomacy. To understand more on this issue, I have Dr. Tinsil Sultim from Tibet Policy Institute, a think tank of Central Tibetan Administration, whose recent article, Tibetan Buddhism, a Source and Strength of India's Soft Power Diplomacy, published in Vivekananda International Foundation, talks on the above matter. Welcome to Tibettv, Dr. Sidimla. Dr. Sidimla, my first question is, since your article talks about soft power diplomacy, first of all, let me ask you, what is soft power diplomacy? Can you explain it in simple terms?
In a very simple term, I think soft power refers to, ability of any nation to influence or the behavior or the activities of another nations to get the desired outcome. I think that is the simplest definition for the soft power. Yes.
Dr. Sidimla, in your article, you have stated that in year 2005, during His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama's teaching, the total number of foreign tourists visit to Bihar was 64,114, and out of this, the total number of foreign tourists visit to Buddhist destination was 45,149, and the total number of foreign tourists visit to non-Buddhist destination was 18,965. Now, my question is, what is Tibetan Buddhism's significance for India's soft power, and how does it become a strength for India's soft power diplomacy?
Tibetan Buddhism is very significant for India's soft power because Tibetan Buddhism, owes their origin and development to the masters and gurus of Indian gurus like Padmasambhava or Shantarakshit Das. And currently, if you see, the real essence of Buddhist tradition is found only in Tibetan Buddhism or in Tibetan language. So in that sense, I think Tibetan Buddhism is very important for India. And since you mentioned about statistic, and I will give another few statistics regarding the numbers. Statistically speaking, in 2017 or in 2018, the total number of foreign tourists visit to Bihar were 10,82,705, and in 2018, the total number of tourists were around 10,87,975. So if you see, between 2017 and 2018, there were a number of teachings or Kala Chakra initiation organized under the auspice of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. For instance, in 2017, the Kala Chakra initiation was held in Bodh Gaya by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And according to Bihar Tourism Department data, if you see, the month of January, which also happens to be the year when the Kala Chakra initiation was held, during that month, the foreign tourist visit number was the highest among all the months in 2017, which was around 75,250. So in that sense, I believe, Tibetan Buddhism play a very important role in promoting and as well as in, widening the idea of Indian soft power on the world platform as well. In that sense, I believe Tibetan Buddhism will play a very important role in the future.
Now, I'll ask you a very important question. When we look at China, China has more than 400 million Buddhist followers. And China is also funding lots of projects related to Buddhism as a part of Belt and Road Initiative, and also trying to promote Buddhism to win the confidence of Tibetans and Buddhist people around the world. So now my question is, what do you think is the ultimate of China doing this? And what do you think China is trying to achieve from this?
According to Pew Research Center, which is a kind of fact tank, there are think tank and Pew Research Center, they prefer to call themselves as a fact tank. And according to their statistic, the number of Buddhists around the world is expected to increase between 2010 and 2030, which is, from 488 million to 511 million, which means between 2010 and 2030, Buddhist population is expected to increase in the world. And most of the Buddhist populations, if you see clearly, I think you might find in the Asian countries. For instance, Thailand, Burma, Japan, Cambodia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, India, and South Korea. And these are the countries, if you observe carefully, which happens to be in the Belt and Road initiatives, under Xi Jinping. So, CCP, or Chinese Communist Party-led China, is largely based on a performance or its robust economy. So, in order to have a steady inflow and outflow of resources and services, they need to have a very robust economy. So, in order to have a robust economy, they should have a trade relation with other countries. So, in order to have trade relations, Xi Jinping has introduced a very mega project known as the Belt and Road project, initiative. We call they have changed the name. Earlier it was called One Belt and One Road. Later, due to some political reason, they changed the name. So I think understanding is that CCP-led government or CCP-led China is planning to use Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism, to say it correctly, to promote Belt and Road initiative, because of that, they already spent, or they're planning to spend billions of dollars in Asian countries where Buddhist population are located. For example, in Nepal, they are planning, or they have already started to spend amount around $3 billion in so-called Lumbini project. And also they have also giving lots of loans. For example, to Sri Lanka, they have, I think recently, maybe 1 year back, they have given around $1.1 billion for construction of motorway. And this expenditure or these loans were given in order to have a good relation, and also in order to soften their erratic image, so that they can continue or they can pursue the Belt and Road initiative through these different projects.
Dr. Sirmula, my last question is, since China is funding lots of projects related to promoting Buddhism, so by doing so, will they be able to win the confidence of Buddhist people around the world?
I think, the best example is, China has already spent millions and billions of dollars in the infrastructure development inside Tibet. They have spent since the invasion of Tibet. And if you see 1989, 2008 and 2012, the self-immolation, all this shows that you cannot win the hearts and minds of the people without conviction. You need to, have a, conviction. You can't just, through the investment of in different projects, you can't win the hearts and minds of Tibetan people, which is a very living example, because China failed to win the hearts of and minds of Tibetan people because of different reasons, as I said before, and which is still, going on, because China has already, they are spending lots of, millions of, I think, dollars in surveillance, which means it shows China doesn't trust the Tibetan people, and Tibetan people doesn't trust the CCP government. And similar to that, I think because of CCP-led government or China, because of their past histories or their treatment towards different religion in China, including in its invaded territories or countries like Tibet, East Turkestan, and Southern Mongolia, I believe, China, it's difficult to win the hearts and mind of the Buddhist Asian countries because of their past histories. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. With this, we're going to end our discussion here. I would like to thank Dr. Tingsut Srimla for joining our program. Thank you so much, Dr. Srimla.
Thank you very much.